Okay, good morning and welcome to Mishna Yomi. We're nearing the conclusion of Masech Terumos. We're in the second to last parak. Parak Yud, Mishnah Zayin and Ches. Mishnah Zayin says Zeisei Chulin Shekvashon. It was Zeisei Truma. Last night I went to this new meat place they had here in Telstone. They had it on a meat place. The meat place closed down a couple years ago. They finally opened a new meat place here in Telstone. It's not a small place. It's not a big place, Telstone. It's like 5,000, 6,000 people. So there's not a lot of people to support a small business like this. They opened up. They call it Western or Texas Grill or something like that. Very conspicuous, very suspicious. I don't know what they're selling. So I decided to order last night before the 9 days. They had no delivery. I had to go up the hill. There's that big hill here in Tulsa. I had to go to the store. There weren't too many customers there. It didn't look like they're too busy. They don't offer grilled meat. They smoke the meat. They smoke it. I asked them, why do you smoke the meat? They said, it's too much. There's too much smoke when you make a grill. So they have a smoker. They smoke the meat. What type of meat? It was chuck meat. I don't know if you know what chuck meat is from the shoulder. This is the meat. I paid 51 shekel. My wife got shawarma, which was a meat and pargit together. That was 54 shekel. And a small parna bread. If you know what parna bread, it wasn't that big. I was very hungry, so it tasted pretty good. But what they also had, they had chamutzim. The chamutzim in Israel generally means pickles. Like pickles, as you think of pickles, because it's pickled in some brine or something like that. So I asked for chamutzim. I wanted chamutzim pickles in the sandwich, and they said, "Oh, that comes on the side." It was in a little small little package, like when you go on the airplane, they have these small little. And when I realized that, I came home and I opened it. He gave it to me with fanekoti. He did me a big. He gave me classy, extra luxury service. First class service. He gave me a small little thing of pickled, and I realized it wasn't pickles. It was pickled carrots and pickled peppers. This is what they give you on the airlines. I think whenever I fly on an airline, get the Glock kosher meal, they always have whatever, their chicken dinner with rice, and then they have a little plastic container with some pickled vegetables, carrots. Why didn't put pickled? Put real pickles, pickled carrots, pickled onions, pickled peppers. It tastes terrible. I'm not saying the place was bad. It was pretty decent. It was decent. It was a little expensive, but I'm not sure if I really liked it. I was just very hungry. Anyway, Zion, we're going to talk about pickling. Zeisei chulin shekvashanim zeisei truma. Let's say you have olives, right? Some of them are chulin, and you pickle them with olives that are truma. Psuei chulin and psuei truma. So if the olives, which are chulin, have holes in them or they're cut in pieces, and so are the ones of truma, psuli chulin shleimei truma, or the ones in chulin have holes in them, but truma does not. Or b'mei truma, or even if you had psuli chulin, right? You have cut up chulin olives; they were cut in half, let's say. Even if there was no actual any more olives in there, it was just olive water, the liquid after the olives and truma were pickled. Aser, it asks. Shleimei chulin psuli truma mutar. However, if the ones that were cut in half were truma ones and the olives that were chulin were shleimim, they didn't have holes in them. They didn't have. They weren't badgered up. They weren't knocked into. They didn't have holes in them. Then it's mutter. I'll explain this more. The difference in Mishnah. You're not going to miss it. Dag tamei shekvasho im dag tor. Let's say now you have fish. We're talking about pickling fish with non-kosher fish with kosher fish. Kol garav shumatzik sasayim. How much more kosher fish do you need than non-kosher fish in order for the kosher fish to remain kosher? Kol garav shumatzik sasayim. Sasayim is a lot. It's a lot of liquid. If you have the weight, it goes by the weight of the fish, right? Which is 10 coins in Yehuda. In the Galil, it's 5 coins. Zero aster. So if you look in the Rab, he explains it's basically a ratio of 1 to 960. If it's 1 to 960, then it's aser. But if it's 1 to 961, then the dagim tahorim remain kosher. Rabbi Yehuda Omer revius b'sasayim. He says a revius, which is a liquid measure, b'sasayim, which is a little less, meaning the ratio is 1 to 200. If you have more than 200, so then it's tahor. If it's 200 to 1, then it's aser. Rabbi Yossi Omer echa mishisha sarbo. He is much more makel. He says 16 to 1 ratio of dag tor, kosher fish. It remains tar. If not. All these opinions are trying to figure out when the absorption was in sinas tam, when the absorption of the taste of the non-kosher fish goes into kosher fish. It has nothing to do with truma. It's talking about kashrus over here, but because we're talking about pickling things, that's why the Masechta brought it in over here. Stay tuned for Ian and Mishna. We'll discuss more Mishnah Zion in depth.